Hi, everyone. Okay, thanks for being here. Mast cell and histamine intolerance. Those words really lit, we'll call it a hailstorm, a big flame under everybody this week on our Facebook group, on our YouTube page, the social media channels really going wild over those terms. What's going on, Maggie?
You know, I'll be honest with you. I mean, we put up a post in the question, and we were flooded with comments everywhere. And people are lit, and people are pissed. The current state of looking at mast cell activation syndrome, histamine intolerance, allergy reactions, allergic reactions of all type, from diagnosis to treatment to results, is a freaking crime scene. So, you know what? We're going to spill the tea today. We're going to talk about, what's going on with this, who's responsible, and where are people supposed to go to get help. And we're going to dig right in. Here we go, everybody.
Thank you all so much for joining us for Transform Table Talk Live. I am your co-host, Anna Manuel, alongside the one and only Dr. Maggie Yu. And Dr. Maggie, I know you've really been dedicating the last several weeks to this topic because it is so important and people have so many issues regarding this.
Yeah. And interestingly, we've done the last 3 lives really educating people about food reactions, allergies, irritable bowel syndrome, and a myriad of other symptoms that food can be related with. We've gone the deep dive into educating you guys about what the food mapping system is that I created to help people accurately understand what's the root cause of some of these reactions, right? So interestingly, something came up in that groundswell because lots of people have been giving us a call, talking and chatting with our team, and enrolling in my food mapping masterclass. And one of the key diagnoses and problems that's been coming up, there's a groundswell of anger and frustration around just exactly how poorly understood and treated mast cell activation syndrome, histamine intolerance, and a ton of wide range of allergic diagnoses that have reactions and diagnoses that have no name. So in honor of that, that's why today I said, and in speaking with so many people, I said, you know what if we dedicated an entire live where we get to hear from you exactly where are we failing? Like, who is failing you? Why are you not getting these results? We got those comments. We've collected them. We're going to be presenting them. And we're going to have a panel, myself included, and 2 other functional medicine providers as well, experts dealing with mast cell and histamine intolerance. We're actually going to be talking about why this is happening and what are people to do to get results and outcomes.
Yeah, thank you for organizing this and bringing this panel together. Without further ado, I can go ahead and have them come on in. Dr. Maggie, go ahead.
Before you do, though, I want everybody watching here right now, if you are struggling or if you're part of the lit or pissed group, type that in the comment section right now, what you're lit and pissed off, what is frustrating you about mast cell, histamine intolerance, or any allergic reaction that has no name. That shall not have no name. Write it down. Tell me what it is. And if you're an alumni, if you're someone that has gone through food mapping with us, I would love for you to share your frustrations before and where you're now in the comments, or just tell me where you're watching from. Go.
Yeah, we love to hear from you. And if you do have some questions, we're going to go through on some of the pitfalls that people have been chiming in on the social media channels. But if you have additional things you would like to add, let us know. I'll be monitoring the comments as well, and we'll see if we can't get your comment and or question in as well. Already people are saying constant hives and itching. Oh, we're going to talk about it. So Dr. Maggie is, of course, leading our panel here today. Also joining us, we have Kathy Ryan. Kathy, why don't you give us a brief introduction?
Yes. Hello. So I'm Kathy Ryan, and I'm a registered holistic and functional nutritionist. I've been working with Dr. Maggie since 2019 in my own practice since 2009. And I am ready to talk about these histamines and mast cell and what's the difference between that and food-related allergies and all those sorts of things, because there is so much misinformation and so much confusion. So I'm happy to be here. Let's go.
Thank you. And you see this a lot, I'm sure, in your line of work. So thank you for having that basis of knowledge, understanding, and bringing it to us tonight. We can't wait to hear what you have to say. Also joining us is Dr. Jason Bradley. If I think most of our watchers probably know you, Dr. Jason, but give us a quick introduction.
Yeah, sure. Thank you guys for having me here today. I am Dr. Jason Bradley. I am a naturopathic and chiropractic physician with about 20 years of functional medicine experience. I am super excited to be on this panel tonight and chat with you guys about, just like Kathy said, the confusion, the misinformation that's all around mast cell, histamine intolerance, allergic type reactions. I'm just excited. We're going to bust some myths and jump right in.
And the fact that you guys recognize there is confusion, there is a lot of misinformation, I think that that's comforting for people watching because they understand, okay, they may have felt medical gaslighting going through this experience, and they know tonight they're going to get some answers and they're not alone. Dr. Maggie, thank you for pulling this together. And do you want us to jump right into the comments?
Before we do that, Dr. Jason said he had 20 years of experience as a functional medicine physician. And it's not that I'm competitive at all whatsoever, but I am 27 years in practice.
Good. So we have combined decades and decades of experience here.
I love it. And already comments are already starting to hop with Christine jumping in saying mast cell and POTS. They're linked, by the way, Christine. And Christina, you probably have never heard that anywhere else, but they're linked. And to find out why, keep watching. But yeah, this is really tough. Christina is a typical case. We've been talking to who are experiencing this because she's pregnant right now. A lot of treatments or things are being on hold. But was that even working in the first place, right? And then there's also hormonal components of this, hint, hint.
Okay. I am very interested to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So many comments, Dr. Maggie, came in. We're talking about hundreds of comments between your social media channels, talking about the frustrations and the pitfalls. And we're going to highlight some of them now.
Yeah.
One of the top pitfalls doctors and patients make, Glenna F. says, most doctors ignore you when you mention anything about this. She says she thinks it's because they're just not familiar with it. They don't care. What is the reason behind that?
Before we do, though, I mean, I think everybody who's watching right now, I mean, maybe some of you don't even know what mast cell is, or maybe or histamine intolerance is, type in chat if you're wondering what we're talking about, what it is, or type in chat if you know what it is. But just wanted you to give you an idea is that the definition is that there are cells in your immune system that react to certain triggers, and there could be multiple types of triggers. And when these cells react to these triggers, that it basically sees as foreign and irritating. Okay. It says, I don't like it. Then it sets up a whole cascade of other cells that starts to make histamines. Histamines will go flood throughout your body. It's not just eyes, nose. It goes out throughout your body, does a lot of different things. And that's why there's such a wide variety of symptoms. And then as a result, people then have all these reactions. And sometimes because the cause can be multiple, right? Or it's not immediate for some people, it could be a little delayed. It's really confusing. So because of the large number of symptoms involved with these histamines, classically, most people just think of it as allergic symptoms like hives, lips swelling, tongue swelling, maybe some trouble breathing. Some people think of that. But at the same time, you will see later, we're going to go into it. There's many different types of histamine related reactions, including Christina, who had the POTS, which is a blood pressure and heart rate change. There's actually cardiovascular effects from histamines that even quote unquote specialists dealing with mast cell or histamine intolerance don't even know about or think about. So we have a lot of patients who are dealing with POTS, who are dealing with dysautonomia, who are dealing with autoimmune diseases, irritable bowel syndrome, you name it, a lot, and who are dealing with menopause or hormone changes, or they just delivered a baby. And all of a sudden, all these symptoms come up because these histamines, hormones, blood pressure, heart symptoms are all related. So this is why, one of the reasons why, when it's that complex, we're going to go into what I call the 3 Ds. Like, I mean,
yeah, I was going to say you have the big 3 Ds.
I do. Like, I look at the way that we look at mast cell right now because it is complex and the symptoms can be so varied. I have the 3 dick moves that you get when you go see a doctor about mast cell or histamine intolerance. You heard me right, dick moves. So what are the 3 Ds? Number 1, they deny. They deny that mast cell or histamine intolerance or these type of allergic reactions exist. Deny. How many of you guys been denied? You go in the office and they tell you it's not real, it's not happening, right? It's in your head. Deny, right? Number two is then they dismiss. They may know what mast cell is, but they dismiss your symptoms as it's not bad enough. It's not really that. How could your blood pressure be related? How could it cause palpitations? How could you have insomnia or anxiety? Dismiss your symptoms as being in your head or not real. So they can deny that mast cell is real. Number two, they dismiss your symptoms. And then number three is they delay. What happens is when you deny and you dismiss, you're actually delaying the diagnosis, right? Or any sort of exploration in it or treatment of options of this. And oftentimes, because of the 3Ds, what you'll find is people get no help, or number two, they get delayed treatment and diagnosis by being sent to a million specialists that really have not much to offer, and it takes forever to get to them, and they don't talk to each other. So,
yeah, and I just want to say that that's exactly medical gaslighting. And that's, I mean, it happens and people feel it. That's the frustration that I think, the groundswell of frustration and people being pissed about this. I mean, that's where it's coming from.
And the consequences can be serious. You know, we're seeing our friend Stacy, an alumni, say she thinks that all of this may have contributed to a heart attack for her.
Yeah.
Others are saying, you know, they feel they've been gaslit and just told it was anxiety, like this comment here. And yet the consequences of denying it, delaying it, can be very serious.
I want to go over really briefly just a scientific basis. So you all of us are talking the same language, and you in the audience, I want you guys to think about this scientifically so it makes scientific sense. You cannot deny this, okay? This is fact. So if you look at this mast cell here, one of the immune cells in your body, it sees either food particles or an environmental trigger, or there are other triggers as well. But in this example, it's a food that you're reacting to. This mast cell senses it, reacts and says, it's irritating, I don't like it. It releases all these histamines. But histamines don't just go to the skin. All of you that said you have hives, direct mechanism. Yes, histamines can cause hives. We all know that. But the rest of this, you doctors don't even know about it. The inflammation means pain. How many of you guys think that your reaction is actually pain or swelling? Your nose and throat, joints. How many of you have that, right? Your feet or your hands get swollen. Right? Cardiovascular. How many of you know that you have some sort of histamine reaction and you eat the food or you have an environmental trigger or something and your blood pressure changes, your POTS, your vertigo, meaning dizziness, your heart rate starts to go weird. That's cardiovascular. And then look at central nervous system. How many of you will get an anxiety attack, brain fog, ADD, lack of focus as a result of these reactions to histamines, right? And then they tell you you're cuckoo, right? And then we got what about uterus? The uterus part of this, it impacts your hormones. Histamines impact hormones. How many of you notice that you're going through either postpartum or certain times of the month, right? Or a man in his 40s to 50s, or a teenager with hormones just starting to change, or you're going through perimenopause and boom, you're having all these histamine food allergic type reactions. And it's not just your classic allergy symptoms, is impacting all these other symptoms, right? And I didn't even talk about cancer. So I want to have a common language here for you to understand that this is a real scientific phenomena, and it really scientifically with pathways impact every one of these other systems and many more.
So the fact that you, Dr. Maggie, are able to explain this so well and connect the dots here, and Dr. Bradley and Kathy also really understand this, why is it then that in the larger medical community, this is so dismissed?
I'd like to answer that. So I think one of the main problems with our medical system, and I know we've talked about this before, is that it is so segmented. So if you're having cardiovascular issues, your cardiologist doesn't know anything about allergies, right? Doesn't know about mast cell, doesn't know about they don't know about anything like that. So you could have, or you're going to a pain doctor. Maybe it presents as pain.
Yeah.
They're not going to know that either, right? So I think that really plays into this whole dismiss, denial, and delay problem that we see, is because they're throwing up their hands. They don't know how to treat it. They are just doing what they know how to do in their little segmented world, and therefore you don't get the help. So I think that's a big issue.
And that shows it in this diagram. When you look at it, this histamine problem impacts, imagine all the branches of a tree that comes out to the symptoms below and branches below. And yet we're sending the people with POTS or heart problem, like Stacy with the heart attack. She went to the cardiologist who's just looking at, he's only the specialist in people who have heart attacks. What does he know about histamines or allergies? And why would he want to talk to her hormone doctor? Because she went through menopause during that episode. And what would her hormone doctor think that her hormones have anything to do with her histamine and food reactions? Nothing.
Exactly.
But yet it's everything, right? Dr. J, you're about to say something.
I was going to say, I think that there's just a lot of missing pieces connecting those dots. And like you said, like specialists are specialists within their fields and they're great at what they do, but there's just not a lot of communication between, not to mention, to back up from that, there's also there's like no training in this in any general medicine programs anyway.
Yeah.
So there's a lack of training. And then, so if you do get interested in it, it's something that you have to pursue, after you've graduated on your own. And there's just not a lot of standardized training out there. So a lot of people say it's not real, unfortunately.
So here's the thing is, I remember one of the comments was so here's the interesting thing. When you actually, look, the first 10 years of my career as a family physician, where people came in with these cardiovascular problems, fatigue, allergy problems, hormonal problems, and they're saying, I know it has something to do with my food. I know it has something to do with histamine. I'd be like, blah, blah, blah. Like, we have no training. And we are trained as doctors that when we have no training in an area, we first then say, there's no data on it. Number one. Number two, your labs are normal. Narrow couple labs that they do, and they're not even testing the right things, right? And then, oh, well, you think it's your allergist to send you to the allergist. It raises this question of when we train physicians who are talking to people so poorly, right? And what the only tools your physician in their 15-minute visit, really, your primary care physician has to do is to deny, get limited test panels, or cart you off to a specialist in those 15 minutes to stay alive and seeing 30, 40 people a day. That's the reality of the medical visit going to see your primary care provider, right? So that is a huge problem is we don't train doctors to deal with it. We don't give them enough time to even ask the questions or to understand it. And we give them a very limited test panel with which to even deal with it. Is there a standardized test? Like there were some comments here about testing, Anne. Mm-hmm. I would love to highlight that. Tamara and Shelley. Yep. They said, this is from them. They rely on a narrow range of normal results. And then they say you're normal. And then they keep sending you to different specialists to get you out of their office. And they don't talk to each other.
Yeah. And Helen adds to that too, that at least where she is in the UK, they acknowledge that this is a real thing, but perimenopausal, having often reactions to food, and she's told that's just normal. This is just what life is. So what's going on with the testing? The testing doctors, they don't have a handle on this.
Dr. J?
Yeah, well, I think there's again, I think they have to step back that there's no training. And if there's no training, there's no training on testing. I mean, there's just no understanding at all what to do. I think that the main thing is that people connect. If they're even going to connect mast cell activation syndrome, they automatically just go to hives and allergic reactions. And just like we were saying, cart them off to the allergist. I hate to say this, but that's almost the best case scenario in the generalized medicine community. And unfortunately, there's just so many other missing pieces and so many other symptoms that can present or be way beyond.
I'm actually looking at the limited number of testing that people do get to try to get a diagnosis for mast cell or histamine, and the tests suck. Right. So imagine like you go and you get one or two tests, and let's say the cutoff for this test is a normal individual is less than 100, and anybody over 100 would then qualify for it. What happened to your 98s and 99s, or even 80, or even a person with 60, but they're full of symptoms? Like it's almost like with the limited labs, they have to draw an arbitrary line, and there's all these, I guess, qualification with which you need to jump through to qualify for a diagnosis, right? So there was a comment here where someone was like, I went to the world-renowned specialist for mast cell activation syndrome, thinking that was going to be my be-all end-all. And she just basically shook her head and said, I'm confirmed that you have the diagnosis, and then proceeded to offer them nothing to deal with treatment of it. So even if you have a diagnosis that's confirmed, you're shit out of luck. But then most people are sitting here trying to even get a diagnosis. And I'm going to say, for what, if there's not much that they can do about it? So there's a diagnostic conundrum with not good, accurate testing. There's also a wide range of people with the degree to which they can have tons of symptoms, and even their lab, the one or two labs, could be normal. That doesn't mean they don't have the problem. So it's a big deal. Kathy?
I just wanted to go back to that last comment. And I'm just going to say something. It's one of my favorite quotes. It's a Kathyism. I always say it. You probably heard me say it 100 times. But just because something is common doesn't mean it's normal. So all these docs telling you, oh, this is normal. This is normal. What they should be saying, and what you can respond to them is, no, it's common. It's not normal, right? There's a big, big difference. And too often those two things get lumped together as the same thing, and then nothing gets done.
Is it common? That's the question I have for you guys. I know the answer to this because Dr. J, you brought this up in one of the Facebook comment threads. You said a lot of people perceive mast cell, a lot of doctors think mast cell and histamine reactions are rare. Is it rare? And I'm going to ask the audience this. You guys think it's rare or you think it's common? Everybody jump in and vote right now. Put rare or common in chat right now. I want to take a poll.
Well, and judging by our audience, you know, they are dealing with this and their family members are dealing with this and they're struggling. And
look at the
a lot of people saying common.
Yeah.
Common. So
yeah. And yet we're told, I mean, we're, like I said, if you do have a discussion about it, if you happen to Google it, mast cell activation syndrome as an example, they say it's a rare condition, you know, and yet so many people seem to be suffering from so many symptoms that are directly related.
I see hundreds of commons coming up right now.
Right?
It just shows you the scope of this problem.
Right?
Yeah.
Just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. And it is common. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I'm going to tell you right now, I am pissed and livid every time I hear someone tell me that their medical provider told them that mast cell activation and POTS or histamine intolerance are not real diseases. And in fact, and there was a quote, and I want you to give the person credit for it, where a functional medicine provider, and then this is a direct quote of what they said to this person. Amy F. says, I have a functional doctor tell me that all my histamine issues are caused by depression.
Oh, yeah.
And then she had a nurse practitioner tell her that food and stool testing are useless tests and that she instead should be treated for mental health disorders.
To have a functional medicine provider, though, tell you that this is all because of depression, this is not real. The root cause is anxiety. The root cause is mental health.
Can I show you this graph again? The arrow goes from the mast cell to the central nervous system, not the other way around. Not because someone has a central nervous system issue with anxiety, depression, does it cause histamines to release. It's the other way around, people and doctors. Pay attention to science.
Yeah, very frustrating. And we've been having people really echoing that in the comments on our live here today as well, saying, I cannot stand that I'm just being told this is anxiety and that's it, because the consequences can be great.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I have this perception, you know, having worked with, you know, lots of different people, a lot of doctors have this idea that they know everything. I mean, they've seen it all, they've done it all, they know everything. And so if they can't figure it out, you know, and all these specialists can't figure it out, then it's not on them because they know everything. It must be in the patient's head. So therefore, you know, it must be a psychiatric condition because otherwise brilliant me would have figured it out. And I mean that out of due respect, but that's just the thought process that's out there.
Well, and from personal experience, you know, as a primary care doctor, the first 10 years of my career, I shudder and I'm very ashamed of the fact that how many patients I put on antidepressants or sent them to go get some therapy or something because I couldn't find out with my neuro testing that I was trained to do what was wrong. So, it's another, 40-year-old fatigued woman who's complaining about allergic reactions or this or that. I mean, you in the back room in the doctor's lounge, I'm telling you right now, they are holding their heads like this all day long, rolling their eyes at the 10th patient of the day that walks in like this. It's that common. And yet we as primary care providers have a very limited array of testing and options that we have for dealing with these. Because let's go to root causes, okay? Right? If I'm going to ask you guys, because there were comments here of what is under hives was what is the root cause, right? People say I've been having hives for the last couple of weeks and I've been going to all these doctors and they keep trying to give me medications, and we'll go into medications more later. But I want to unveil for people right now, what do you guys think out there is the root cause? What is the underlying cause of this crazy histamine release or problem tolerating histamines? What do you guys think is the root cause? Because I have a feeling you're going to know more than your doctor. That right now. And then I would love, what would, besides, like someone saying like, oh, there's something allergic, like pollen I'm allergic to, and that it triggers allergy. That's an obvious answer, right? But what are some shocking reasons? That's the underlying cause of, what are the real causes of mast cell activation and histamine intolerance? Dr. J, and then Kathy.
Ooh, and look at how smart this person is.
Yeah, I think Kristen nailed it down there.
Kristen is in our program right now.
No, it really comes back to digestion and food tolerance, right? Because ultimately, I mean, a lot of the histamine that builds up in our system builds up in our gut when we're not breaking that food down. It goes right back to the food mapping system of understanding what foods that you're responding to, how to lower the histamine levels in the food. I mean, it just comes back to digestion.
Well, and let's, Kathy, you're about to say something.
I was going to say, there's lots of causes. I mean, there can be a genetic component. There's definitely environmental component, but there's also autoimmune and inflammatory conditions, even chronic stress, like anxiety. I understand that anxiety doesn't cause mast cell, but there can be when your body is under a lot of stress.
Mast cell causes anxiety. Yeah, there's a clear chicken and an egg here. It's not the other way around, right?
Yeah. But it's when your body is under a lot of stress, the whole system breaks down, right? And then
before you go more though, I have to pause you. Hold on. This is a really important point she made, and I don't want to keep going without the shedding a light on that one, which was she said autoimmunity. Okay. I really want to pause for a second. What does autoimmunity have to do with mast cell activation syndrome and histamine intolerance? I've made many videos around that. And if you want information on that, put autoimmunity in the comment section, because I just want to give you another scientific fact. Write a note down on this. What is autoimmune disease is that your immune system, which is there, is supposed to fight germs. It's supposed to look at something that's foreign and say, you're a germ, I'm going to kill you. Instead, in autoimmune disease, your immune system looks at your own body and says, you're a germ and I'm going to hurt you. That's what the definition of autoimmune disease is. It's a jacked up, confused immune system. That same immune system is responsible for recognizing allergens. And so if you have an autoimmune disease already hyper identifying your own body parts as a germ and reacting against it, what then do you think is the likelihood someone with an autoimmune disease will also hyper react to allergens, whether it's environmental or food? What's the likelihood of someone with any autoimmune condition developing histamine problems and mast cell problems? Type it in chat, right? That would be 100%. So it is pretty rare when I see someone who truly, let's say they have a diagnosis of mast cell or histamine intolerance. Okay, they fulfilled the criteria. It's pretty rare that they don't have some other underlying autoimmune disorder going on as well, identified or not. Just so you know, so there's a huge link right there. I wanted to give Kathy credit for pointing out that autoimmune and mast cell activation link, right? And I'm going to ask experience, how many alumni that we've treated and ended mast cell with and histamine intolerance understand and can attest to the fact that there was also an underlying autoimmune condition in your case. And learning to calm and tame down that autoimmunity was also the key of learning to calm and tame the mast cell. Type in chat, share your experience. I want people who've actually gone through that process and have results, share it in chat. Real people, real results, right? There's proof to that.
And you mentioned this, and Dr. Bradley mentioned this as well. He said it's maybe best case scenario in the conventional medicine world if you do get sent to an allergist. And I want to highlight a comment by Dawn, who said she's been diagnosed and treated by an allergist for 7 years with medications and more medications. And the medications are making her worse. Yeah. So you're throwing new medications then at that problem. So can we talk about the medication factor in all of this? And is that the answer?
So when you look at the current state of affair of how you treat mast cell, typically the medications are antihistamines. So you can look at Claritin, Allegra, you can look at ketotifen, you can look at a lot of these classes of medications. They're there. Antihistamine, meaning the histamine's already made, cat's out of the barn. And then you throw a medication to try to rein it back in. To me, it's like a dam that's already running, and then you're trying to put little plugs on it, and there's already broken places all over the place, flooding the entire behind it. And you say, I'm going to give you an antihistamine right now, right? So it is not very effective because that histamine rush is so big. It's very overwhelming, right? And so therefore, no cause analysis. If you don't stop it at what's coming in to feed that in the first place, you're in the back plugging a dam that's broken. That's the state of all these medications as antihistamines. Now, there's another class of medication. They're called H2 blockers. So there are medications like Zantac, Pepcid. We even give it to kids with all these allergy problems. Here's the problem, okay? While they do work to decrease to block the production of histamine, there's a dark side to those medications. They shut off stomach acid.
And you have just told us what is key to solving this problem.
Digestion, right? So we actually give a pill to somebody and kids with this problem to stop one of the first and most important step in digestion. And then we wonder why they're worse, not getting better, and having other problems with low stomach acid.
Yeah. And yet when you try to bring that up to a doctor who is trying to give you that medication, forget about it.
Well, and I want to show this really briefly, another science. And if you want to take notes, everybody. If you're learning something from this, type, and you know somebody else could benefit of it, type their name in chat. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, subscribe to the channel right now and ring the bell to get notified, okay? And give us a thumbs up right now because that helps the algorithm and way more people are going to watch this. So looking at this, look at these just 6 major steps in digestion. And you could think about each step in digestion is designed to take big pieces of food and allergens and break them down to smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. Every step is critical. And even if one step is broken, what you're going to find is you can't break down that food into smaller particles. Really small particles are easily absorbed and are less allergenic. So by the mere fact that someone has a lot of allergies, I can tell you, you can work backwards from that problem and you're going to see their digestion sucks. One or more of these steps are broken. Notice step number 2 is stomach digestion with acidification. Acid. Acid is one of the best defense against histamine production and allergy load. And yet we're prescribing medications like Zantac, Pepcid to kids and adults with allergy problems to, yes, one effect is it can decrease histamine production, but the major effect it has is to shut off acid. So then you are creating a problem where you're not digesting more and more food, creating more and more allergen load. So it doesn't work. It's causing harm.
And yeah, I mean, this person said, I don't have a gallbladder. And how often do you hear that? Actually, I've seen you be able to predict that in people when you're looking at their test results. You say, what's going on here? You have a major digestive problem. And then it'll come out, have you had gallbladder surgery? And indeed, yes, so many people are dealing with that. And is that the solution? I mean, perhaps that is a valid surgery at times, but to take an organ out that then you're not given any information about how to then have proper digestion afterward, it's a big problem.
Removing an organ that's damaged from bad digestion in the first place makes the problem, it first of all shows a total lack of proactivity. Proactivity, number 1. Number 2, you're removing the organ that wasn't digesting fat properly in the first place. So you actually remove the organ so they have no fat digestion. And then you don't tell them jack shit about how to actually fix their digestion after that. So then 3 years, 4 years later, they start showing up with mast cell and histamine intolerance. And then you tell them they're hysterical and prescribe an antidepressant. This is the normal state of mast cell activation and histamine development, poor diagnostics, and poor treatment, which I think is utter BS.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many people do we talk with that have had their gallbladder removed and they have, just awful digestion? And we just ask a really simple question, what was the follow-up to the surgery? Like, what were your instructions? And basically it's like, don't eat fat anymore.
Wouldn't care.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so there's not even good follow-up with that. And then it just affects digestion and we're hitting it with low stomach acid. Now there's no gallbladder and the bile's not working and it's messy.
So people want answers. They want to know, hey, if I'm in this situation, what can be done? Karen is somebody who said she was on acid blockers for years, got off them, obviously was concerned, but then went and had her GI test and was told, you need to get back on them because you're setting yourself up for perhaps cancer, Barrett's esophagus, or something like that. And what is someone to do then?
So I'm actually going to pull out another diagram here, and I'm going to say this goes back to the food mapping system, right? So for me, a lot of focus around this. This is where people have been on the phones with us, talking to our team. And by the way, talk to us, book a call with our team if you want to learn more about this. But what I hear by and large is then people are left on their own because their allergist is not helping them, the GI is not helping them, primary care, their specialist is not helping them. So they're like, it has to be food allergies, right? And so the focus becomes all around how can I go an elimination diet and eliminate all these foods that are possible allergens? They get sicker. Or I'm going to go ahead and get some food testing, and that's going to be the be all end all because that's going to accurately tell me what's causing this. And the answer is no, no, and no. So I want to share just this diagram for me is just a review because I know a lot of you have seen my lives. And if you want to learn more about the food mapping system, I have other videos that go in more depth. But there's 4 components to these histamine reactions. On the very left upper corner, that is digestion, my friends. Okay. So for me, I am not listening or addressing you properly if I am not training your sweet ass on digestion because your doctor sure as hell isn't trained and ain't going to help you with it. So for me, excuse my French, I'm a fan of the cursey word. I'm sorry if I'm offensive, but like we are an educational program because for goodness sakes, you have to learn how to be smarter than them because they know nothing. So on that left upper corner, digestion is something that in our food mapping system, we train you. We train providers and we train you. Okay. And so that piece is what step is broken? How do I address it? Right. And even merely if you're like, can I take a digestive support that actually can help with some of this? Yes, digest it. We have a product. I mean, if you're like, I can't do anything else, give me one supplement that helps with digestion. Yeah, right here, digest it. It's our top selling product because it works. It does address every phase of digestion. There is supplementation that can be helpful, right? So this is 1 with small meals, 2 with big meals. You can take a quick look at that. But my thing about it is, digestion for me, there's a master's degree around that. And I love teaching it. So part of our food mapping system is to educate you about digestion because 50%, and I'm not overstating this, and I'm going to ask Kathy and Jason to share their experience around this. To me, 50%, when we deal with mast cell and histamine tolerance all day long, I have programs. And I can tell you right now, by addressing digestion, within a couple weeks, at least 50% of the people will have 50% of the symptoms in resolution, if not more. And that's just one piece of digestion. And that's missing from all mast cell and histamine intolerance care. Dr. J, Kathy, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, we hear that all the time, right? I think we were just on a call a day or 2 ago and someone mentioned, I've only started this a couple of weeks ago and oh my gosh, my symptoms are so much better already. My digestion is so much better. And that's always, very exciting to hear. And it's something that's overlooked and not taught well. Again, I keep coming back to the front end of education. There's so much that needs to change there. But yeah, it's filling in that missing gap. It's such an important piece and it's so overlooked. And we do see changes very quickly.
Kathy, what about you?
I just want to add to that we're not even filling in a gap. We're setting the foundation because too many other natural healthcare practitioners, functional medicine practitioners included, want to dive right in and either look at their hormones or their whatever they want to do all these other testing, and they haven't started with the most important, which is digestion. And the way that the Transform program is set up is so, like Dr. Jason said, you can be on module 1 or 2 and start seeing amazing results without even getting to the other testing. And then the other testing only serves to inform what's already going on in the body and the resolutions that you're already seeing. So for me, it's a foundation. It's the absolute step 1. This is where we start.
So here's an interesting thing. Like there's a misconception here that elimination diet is the answer to mast cell and histamine intolerance. And I'm going to say, Christina, great question. And I'm going to say is the opposite of that BS. And here's why this is why this corner of this, the next foundation of the food mapping system, is accurate testing. Data is so freaking important. I am a doctor. I am a scientist. I am an MD. So I have scorched the earth looking for the best because testing for food sensitivities suck. So it took me a long time to find the gold standard of what is the best test. So we absolutely, Christina, base everything 100% on your personalized data. And we just did a review, and you guys can think about it. We just did a review with Dave, and holy heck, I mean, that revealed so much. And I have cases after cases after cases on YouTube where someone was on an elimination diet would then, someone's on an elimination diet and they said, I removed gluten, eggs, and soy, and milk, only to find out that it was, what was that? It was just like gluten and almonds, right? That is a really common scenario. And the very elimination diet they were told to be on by their functional medicine specialists actually made them eat the very thing that was triggering their mast cell the most.
And you see that a lot. You do see that a lot. And Christina even said, the elimination diet did not work for me. How often do you hear that? Because it's just not the answer. They're not basing it on
hear it.
data.
We literally hear it about 200 times a week. That's how many people we talk to every week. We hear it 200 times. They wouldn't be on the phone with us and talking to us if it worked. Right? Results or lack thereof speak for themselves. So accurate testing is absolutely critical to the food mapping system, right? So you got to have the best test. But here's the other thing. I mean, Dr. Jason and I, 47 years combined experience. I don't know how many years Kathy wanted to put onto this, but
15.
even with, so I'm not going to say this is almost 60 years in combined experience. We sound so old. But the piece is that the key to me in the food mapping system is the combined wisdom of that. Even with the best test, you need to be educated on all the intricacies of what, like, the best test has these little quirks, even like of what I say, oh my gosh, when this and this together are positive, it's not real. Mm-hmm. There's what we call false positive phenomena. And there's also what's called false negatives. Just because something is negative doesn't mean you should eat it again. And there's criteria as to why. So there's all these intricacies and criteria that we train you on. That's why, to me, it's a master's degree level training that's based on your data. Marissa just is
shining example there. Yeah, she's an alumni. She says, this is amazing. Your food mapping, Dr. Maggie, helped really determine the real from the fake allergies, and using data, using your expertise in critical thinking. She had different diets, 3 different diets that she went on before this. Nothing worked until food mapping.
Yeah. And that's why, for me, like, left upper corner of this foundation, and it's by no accident, it's a 4-leaf clover, right? And you don't need luck of the Irish to actually deal with this. You just really need these foundational elements. So left is going to be your digestion and mastery level training and troubleshooting around that. On the right is going to be accurate data and your training to understand better than providers on what are the intricacies to have accurate application of those results. So one-on-one implementation on this so that you understand accurately. We went over all the histamines and the misunderstandings around it. Yes, your POTS is linked to it. Yes, your autoimmunity is linked to it. Yes, your brain fog is linked to it. Yes, your anxiety is linked to it. So I think it's really important that people get a master level training to understand histamines more than their allergist. How about that? And then as a result, then people have this problem on the right lower corner where people come to us, and I'm going to have you guys type in chat. How many of you have like low B12, low folate, low iron, low vitamin D, low magnesium, right? Low everything, and you feel like you have chronic fatigue like crazy, right? That's the end result when you don't when you don't fix the digestion, when you don't get accurate data, you don't deal with lowering all the allergens and histamine load. The end result is this right lower corner, the blue bottomless pit of hell of empty nutrient tank. Nothing. You got nothing. So then how many of you have chronic fatigue and have been told then, I don't know why, your labs are normal. Well, are your labs designed to look at digestion, food mapping accuracy, histamine problems? No. So those shitty labs are normal. And then the real education and the real data you really need has never happened yet. And that's what the food mapping system is designed to create, so that we don't get this bottomless pit of hell of empty nutrient tank on that right lower corner with the nutrient density. Does that make sense, everybody? I mean, I just want to make sure that this makes sense to you. Type it in chat. Did you learn something here? Type it in chat. That is the food mapping system that we're talking about. And unless you do that, You cannot interrupt the pattern with mast cell and POTS or histamine intolerance. I deal with this all day long, everybody. So I just gave you exactly the critical the pieces that must be addressed, and you have to master it.
Amy is another example of somebody who has successfully gone through your program, saying going on 5 years now of food freedom because of it. Love how much my mast cell symptoms improved. She was down to just eating 5 foods. Now, 5 years later, maybe she only reacts to 5, but she knows which ones they are.
Amy is an RN, and she was trying to work on a hospital floor with all these IBS and histamine reactions 5 years ago. And look where she is now. Not only did she get results right away, they're sustainable. And Amy, I'd love for you to share what's been happening. Are you getting better and better and better over time? Is this sustainable? Answer that in chat, Amy. Dr. J?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that's one of the other cool parts of the food mapping system is that we actually see people adding foods back in. We see that as much as, I don't even want to say eliminating or limiting foods, but I mean, people add so many foods back in that they thought they were reactive to, and that data just really points out, it really helps create a black and white, yes and no. It's awesome.
And with that said, and we're talking about diet, and perhaps this question while we're waiting on Amy to come back in is Fritz posed this, and I can perhaps ask you this, Kathy. I'm told there's no proof, no evidence-based literature that diet interventions can be helpful with mast cell and histamine intolerance. This is information from a physician saying diet doesn't matter. What do you have to say to that, Kathy?
I mean,
it's laughable.
All I can do is laugh. Like, we have how many clients would say otherwise?
Thousands.
It's laughable. It's laughable. Unfortunately, that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
So
here's Amy's update, by the way, as well.
Amy says, I feel amazing, totally sustainable, and I was given the tools and knowledge for this to be lifelong results. Oh. And Amy, I saw I don't know how many hundreds of pounds of vegetables she grew in her garden, but I keep seeing all these, she does it by pounds, and she's like, 600 pounds this month and 800 pounds next month. I'm like, I don't know how many people go by poundage, but imagine being able to cook again, work again. And I just love what's coming out of her garden and her kitchen.
And she actually said she even went on to get another college degree and is currently working on a nutrition degree now.
Right. I think we need to do a re-interview of Amy as a 5-year follow-up. There was an original interview with Amy. Who wants to see Amy's interview that we did right after the Transform program, right after she did food mapping? Type in chat, Amy, AMIE. And then who wants a re-interview, a 5 years later follow-up, a reunion with Amy to see where she is at right now? That would be pretty awesome. And here's the thing is, I like doing these interviews because they show you success leaves clues.
Yeah.
Success really leaves clues. So one of the most effective strategies to getting the results you want is to take a look at people who have been successful and do what they did. That's an easy way. You don't have to find the way. Someone already did it, had the result you want. What did they do? How did they do that? So that's the point of these case studies and interviews, is success leaves clues. Follow their success.
And Amy, while her story is wonderful, is not unique in this.
Nope.
I interview people that have graduated through your program every week, and it's the same story. Finally they're getting answers. Finally, they're feeling better.
Yep. Any final comments and questions? Let's take a look, everybody.
Kathy, I'm so interested as a nutritionist, what kinds of things, and how you can add to this discussion too, what kinds of things are people coming to you with and being told from their doctors additionally, as it relates to how they should be eating when they're having these types of issues?
Well, basically, I'm going to kind of answer that in a bit of a different way. So if we go back again to these people who are on these elimination diets, and I saw one pop up, a comment pop up just a couple of minutes ago that said that they went on the carnivore diet. Okay. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people come to me and they've been doing all these different diets. And carnivore is one of these ones that's super trendy right now. And basically all you're eating is animal protein. And a lot of people will only eat beef. Well, the other night in Farm, we had a client who had been eating carnivore, had stopped because it didn't make a difference for him. And then we did his food testing, and we found out that beef was one of his triggers. So, so I kind of answered that in a roundabout way. We get a lot of people in that are, I personally do, and in the Transform program, get a lot of people in that have just tried all these different diets, and they're confused. They don't know where to start. They don't know where to go next because they've tried everything that they know how to do. And that's why I love what Dr. Maggie offers, because it's hope. And that's what we offer to people, is hope.
And those diets are personalized to no one.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. And that is a cornerstone of what Dr. Maggie is trying to get out there, that you need data, you need your own personalized data to be able to solve this mystery, because everybody may have a different set of circumstances that's leading to their issues. And some people may have multiple set of circumstances.
Well,
and that is why you have to uncover it all to be able to feel better.
I just saw a comment about that where someone said, I think someone was talking about how for each individual, there are multiple types of answers. But for me, one of the things is that there's so many, you hear so many things. And when you go on Google, it tells you so many things. There's a lot of rabbit trails that you can go. And so for me, people end up getting stuck sometimes in these rabbit trails. It must be this, it must be that. And it's a rabbit trail. And for me, I'm like, can we not go there first? Okay. Can we go here first? Because it's foundational, right? It's foundational. Every single mast cell person have to understand and address digestion. It's foundational. Every single person with these diagnoses or reactions get accurate food mapping testing. It's foundational. They work one-on-one with us to truly understand how to implement these results, what are true positives and true negatives, right? And it's foundational. They reintroduce a lot of foods for their nutritional roundedness and health, right? So these are the foundational keys that are critical, but it's just not happening out there. So this is why it's called the food mapping system, right?
And Dr. Maggie, a lot of questions are coming in now because there is a lot of frustration. People have tried to see different doctors. They've been going at this for years in many cases. So if they want more information about learning more about Food Mapping Masterclass or the Transform program, what are the steps that they should take?
Well, if you follow this QR code, we'll put the link in there. Just to give you a little history is that the food mapping system initially was in our main program called Transform Fundamentals. And there was no way to access this for the last 6 years unless you were in our main program that covered everything. And literally about 2 months ago was the first time we heard you and we offered food mapping separately on its own. And there are some people that this is their main and major biggest first step they need to take. So we developed my Food Mapping Masterclass where you're going to get accurate testing, right? There's going to be online learning that's going to be done at your own time. Number 3, there's going to be a week of one-on-one implementation learning done in a small group. And this is what people are missing. So this is called my Food Mapping Masterclass. You can go ahead and check that QR code to look for information on that. But most importantly, many people just need to talk to us. Like they're like, is this right for me? I have questions around it, all that. Just talk to us. Connection is my number one value personally and for our company and in all our programs. Everything is because of human connection. So my most important thing is get on the phone. You know what? Just click this code, click the link in the chat, book a call. We're real. We're here. We want to hear you. So book a call with our team, talk to us, and we'll answer your questions. And we get it. We understand what is going on with all these reactions. All the diagnostic problems, all the treatment problems, your frustrations. We hear it every single day, every single week. And I do know what the heck we're doing.
Somebody wanting to know, there's a lot of women that are chiming in. Are there men that go through this as well?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You guys can answer.
Yeah, I think just in general, I think that there are more women that seek out this type of, practice and care. But we do have men, and in the men that we work with, they dive right in, and see good results too.
Just this week, just so you guys know, we gave Derek, who's in our program, the Golden Mustache Award. And it's the dude who actually is playing full out. And because I think there are equal amounts of men and women, but women tend to seek help more, is what Jason's saying, Dr. J is saying. So, but the funny thing is there's plenty of men in our programs and they do get into these problems. You know why? Because they have digestion problems just the same. They have hormonal problems just the same. They come up against the same obstacle with providers just the same. And they get labeled as having depression, anxiety, or ADD just as much as women do. And in fact, sometimes more. Okay. So absolutely, this affects men, women, children, and lots of people are going through my food mapping masterclass with their kids. And for some people with their grandchildren, just so you guys know, because there's genetics behind this. We didn't even get into genetics, but believe it or not, your children share 50% of your food sensitivities and 50% of them share your digestive problems. So you become the generational interrupter of these health patterns that your other doctors just ignore. Take that to the bank. Boom.
And that is something that I know alumni are so appreciative of when they go through the program as well, because they are able to help their other family members. You learn information that can be classified and applied to your family members. And then you're able to have that knowledge too, to help them because you're taught it. Let's get into genetics. They're saying we want to hear about genetics. Well, it would be a whole nother topic of discussion, I think, Dr. Maggie.
Well, and I'm going to ask you guys this, okay? I'm planning for another live next week, and I'm going to let you guys lead the charge in what would you like us to talk about next week? Because I do think, I mean, we're almost an hour in here. I want to respect your time. What is something about mast cell, histamine intolerance, or the food mapping system, food reactions, allergies, anything in that realm that you feel like we didn't address on tonight? If you want us to speak to that, put it in the chat and in the comments right now. I promise you, I read every comment. I absolutely read every comment. That's one of the reasons why I get so hot under the collar. That's also the reason why I'm a fan of the cursey words, because I'm mad just like you are. I am lit and I am pissed just like you are. I share your pissedness.
Making up words too that are very appropriate for this.
Yes,
And we're already seeing people suggest some topics. So keep those comments coming. We're going to keep this up. And Dr. Maggie, as she mentioned, she is going to read this and she is going to stay lit with the fire because you want to help as many people as possible. I know that. And it gives you great satisfaction and gratification when you have alumni come to you and say, I'm better. I feel good. And what an amazing feeling when somebody has gone through years and years of misery to get to a point of health.
Yeah. And you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe anything that we're saying up here. I think the most important thing to believe is proof and results. So I want to alert you guys to the fact that on our YouTube channel, we actually have, at this point, over 1,000 videos, hundreds of case studies of every symptom known to man, every diagnosis known to man, people that are sicker than you, just as sick, less sick, all the above, and they have outcomes. So if you want to check out how success leaves clues, go to the YouTube channel right now and subscribe to the channel. And you could put in, search the channel for any diagnosis or symptom. You're going to find one or tons of case studies around it. I really want you guys to really experience yourself to see how, because I think, I'll be honest, many of you out there don't even believe you could get better. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you something. If you don't believe that you can get better, then you're right. So what's the best way to shift your beliefs? Proof and results. So if you want to see some proof and some results in the comment section, tell us about you. Get on the phone with us if you need to as well. Talk to us. We'll show you it. We'll show it to you, share it with you. And then you can learn from how success leaves clues.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maggie. And thank you, Dr. Jason Bradley and Kathy. I think you have very well established that mast cell activation syndrome and histamine intolerance, this is not something that is in your head. This is not something that we've established is rare, even though it is classified as such. And this is something that has real root causes that can be determined and you can get better. So very enlightening discussion. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Dr. Jason?
I would just add too that what I love about the food mapping system, I just want to come back to that real fast, is that it is a complete system and it really pulls in digestion data, the lowering the histamines, and then helping get the nutrient levels up. I've been doing this work for 20 years. And I don't know when I started saying it, but a few years ago, I started saying, I really believe that true health begins in the gut and begins with our diet. And it definitely is related to the mast cell activation syndrome and histamine intolerance and allergy issues. So I'm excited for this program, and I had a lot of fun tonight. Thanks for having me on here.
Thank you so much. And Kathy, would you like to leave us with a final thought?
Just if you need hope for your condition, call the team. Call the team. Go look at those videos, because that's one of the Dr. Maggie helps a lot of people. We all do. But the other thing that we offer is hope. And that's probably my most favorite part of the job.
And my final quote is, I like to start the day with hope. I like to end the day with data and results. Take that to the bank.
Boom.
Have a wonderful night, everybody. Thanks.